Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alrighty everyone, welcome to a oddly specific rec or angsty or whatever you want, but it's also a version of second chance romance that's going to be forced apart. Is what this one's going to be called. Now, I've definitely done forced marriage before and I've done lots of second chance, but one of my viewers actually requested romances where they are forced apart at some point. And I decided that fit really well with kind of like the angsty theme usually, and or a second chance basically. And so I have 10 recommendations for you for couples that are forced apart. Now they're going to be forced apart in all different ways in here. Some of them dark, some of them mafia, right? And then some of them are forced apart by different circumstances. But I had a lot of fun putting this list together, and I think some of these ones might surprise you. So we're going to get started. We're going to start with a few mafia ones though, because in general, these are kind of like Romeo and Juliet situations where the couple is forced apart when they're younger, and then get a second chance later on, usually with a lot of anger and stuff pushed in there as well. So the first one I want to mention is Brutal Legacy by Mila Kane, and this one is a dark second chance mafia with a ex-special forces guy who is pushed into an arranged marriage. And the thing is, the person that he is forced into it with is actually his long-lost love, who I can't remember in this one if he thought that she had died or if he thought that she betrayed him here. I need to pull it up here. Actually, it's been a little bit. So this is Giada as well. And if you read King of the Cage by Mila Kane, this is the sister of the hero in that one. And it turns out that they were in love 14 years ago. Or no, I said that backwards. I'm sorry. Elio is the brother of the woman from King of the Cage, and then this is his romance. Sorry, I said that backwards. And he was in love with Georgia, who has been recently widowed, and because of who her father was, she needs protection. And so Renato, who is the hero from book 1 in this series, because it is going to be more than 2 books. She's announced there's a 3rd one in here. He sends he sends Elio to retrieve her, and then, you know, who else is she going to marry but him? Because she needs to be married into someone, and Renato, you know, is like, oh, there's all these men that I can marry her off to, but instead, Elio's going to be like, fuck no, it's going to be me. So there was a lot of angst in this one between them. I believe they both blame each other for how they got split up, and there are a lot of flashbacks explaining like how they fell in love and how they missed their chance, as with a lot of these, due to the machinations of parents and of them being, you know, from different positions in life. You know, that's one of the reasons that people often get forced apart, is either some of these are like class differences or just being from the wrong family and things like that. So definitely a good dark one there. Another mafia one, which I have, I think 3 is how many mafia ones I have in here, is actually one of my favorites from this author. It's so powerful, is Relentless Hunter by Maggie Cole. She actually has a couple forced apart ones, but this one is probably the most dramatic. This is actually the culmination of like 9 books beforehand, but I just want to be honest, to be straight up, Maggie Cole, one of the reasons why her books are hard to binge, though I do absolutely love, I mean, this book is always right behind my head. I love the Mafia Wars. I really, really do. Is that she does recover ground. Now, that's not on purpose. That's an author reason, so that if someone randomly picked up this one, they aren't lost. But if you're the one who's binging the whole series, like if you go to binge all the Mafia Wars, you're going to feel like you've seen certain scenes literally 8 to 10 times, because they happen in every single book. Because there are these important moments that when she's writing the next book, she has to remind you of it, right? So I just want to put that out there, is that if you binge this whole series to get to this book, it will feel really repetitive to some parts of it, because she has so interlocked the lives of this family and everything, that you've gotten bits and pieces of this love story, and you know that the hero is looking for his woman, and this one is Finn, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head, so I need to look it here, but Finn is the hero, and there's Bridget, I believe. No, Brenna, sorry, Bridget is the other girl, and these two, they were in love when they were young, and then Finn and I believe one other guy in the O'Malley family actually go to prison for like 15 to 20 years, and they're forced apart, and it was awful. They were falling in love. They were in love. They had a future together, and then things went down, and he ended up in prison. And, you know, Brenna ended up in, I mean, we'll just say she ended up in like a domestic slavery situation, forced to be the mistress and sex slave to a very evil man who forces her to have certain plastic surgeries, forces her to be sterilized so that he doesn't have to use protection. Fuck that guy. And it's just very heavy stuff that's happened to her. And when Finn, and not only is she being like brainwashed and abused by this man and having her body turned against her and used against her, she's also being threatened constantly that if she ever tried to go back to her family, which doesn't just mean Finn, like there was other people she loved in her life too, that they would be killed if she ever tried to leave. So all of this is the state that Brenna is in. And then we have Finn, who, again, they were forced apart due to him going to prison, and now he's out and he's trying to find Brenna, and she has just disappeared. And there's a lot of anger because he's like, where was the support of my family to look out for my woman? Because that is something they would do, is like you look out for the, what is it, like the prison widows is what it would be called or something. And I mean, none of them could have any idea of how awful this all like was. But this man, there's a reason this one's called Relentless Hunter, is he will find her. And the way that he is once he gets her back, you guys, oh, it's so good. So all that to say about this, you could just read this book. I understand why that is a not super popular opinion to recommend. Of course, I want people to read a whole series. However, what I say stands. Maggie Cole, to both her positive and detriment, she puts everything you need to know into the book, like an author should. It's just in our world now where we binge a whole series on Kindle Unlimited or all of the audios or whatever, there will be parts that feel very repetitive if you read through not even just all 9 of these, but if you read just the O'Malley family, because you can also do that. The series is split kind of into 2 halves. There's the Mafia Wars, the Russian family, and the Mafia Wars, the Irish family. So yeah, but this one, when I thought of forced apart couples, this one just immediately hits me between the eyes because it was a devastating story to read, but it also felt so good. So then one more Mafia one, and then we'll move on to some other types. There is, of course, Her Way by Nikki Harris. This one is book 3 in the Kids of the District, and this one is about Bronson and Shoshana. And as always, as it is, they were in love as basically children. And then in this one, it is Shoshana's father who basically forces them apart. Like, I'll just tell you, it's his fault. But this story takes place when Bronson is now thrust back into her life. And this time around, he's like, you are the one for me. And you can resist it and you can push back, but you are the one for me. Now, this one does have some pretty serious trigger warnings in this one. So definitely read those on the author's website before you dive in. But very possessive hero, very, you know, he's almost feels like the Joker in some ways. He's almost psychopathic in some ways. But his sole desire is to have her back, and he's kind of like, I don't care what brought us apart, like threw us apart, like we're going to be together again. And she's kind of like, dude, if you knew the full list of things that I've done, you wouldn't want me anymore. And I mean, he's going to prove her wrong. He's going to prove her wrong. But there's some pretty painful things that kept them apart. So just keep that in mind. Okay, let's do one that is a little bit quicker, a little bit lighter. And that is Come With Me by Brooke Montgomery. This is, oh, what a pretty cover. I love the cover of Brooke Montgomery's books. I really do. They're so pretty. This one was the novella that actually sets up Sugarland Creek. So this is a prequel, but it is a full story and romance all in its own. And it's actually about, I think it's the like, is it the stable master or something in the, I can't remember. It's been so long. I think it's their, I don't remember who he is, but it's about Aiden, and he's one of the guys who works at Sugarland Creek. And the thing is like, I'm just going to read the back of this one because it's been a long time here. Let me just read the back of it. So, I didn't know I was pregnant. So there you go. It says it right there. It's the first line. But this one is a forced apart. It's a forced apart and more. So Aiden walked away from me a decade ago, and I never looked back. The only thing he left me was our sweet, amazing daughter and a mile-long list of small town secrets. When his father, the town's mayor, threatens me, Aiden's childhood best friend steps in, and I have no choice but to fight the battles he ran away from. I spent years looking for the only man who's ever stolen my heart, and when I finally find him in Sugarland Creek, Tennessee, I go and face him. He deserves to know the truth, not just about his child, but his best friend too. No matter how much time has passed and how far apart we are, my heart still beats for him, and I don't want to get hurt again, even though I want to give us another chance. It's not just my heart on the line, it's our daughter too. So, this one definitely has to do with the dad forcing them apart. There also was domestic violence in Aiden's home, and he wanted to make a clean break of it and get out of his father's reach. And he asks her, I'm just going to tell you this because it will help with the secret baby part. He asks her to come with him because he says, if I don't make a clean break, my father will find me and force me back here, and it's not going to end well between him and I. And he left before she was ever able to tell. And what happened is, because this was, I can't remember how many years it's been in this one. I think it's been like 10 years or so. Okay, first page, 10 years ago. Because he didn't have any social media use, he like completely cut everything off. And he was able to do that at that time, whereas like now I think it'd be much more difficult for people to do that. But there was no phone number, no nothing, because he's like, if I leave even a way for you to contact me, my father could use it against me. And she was still young. She had loved ones to stay for. This was before she even knows she's pregnant. And so she didn't go with, and he left no way to contact him. So that is why the baby hasn't been said about. And the line in here where it says, when I find out where he's staying, the only way she finds out where he is she actually sees a promo video of some kind for this resort and equestrian center. Sorry, it has a really long ranch and equine retreat. Okay. And she immediately recognizes her lost love. So what I love about this is that the heroine, as soon as, even though it's years and years, as soon as she knows where this man is, she goes to him. Okay. She wasn't able to find him until she sees that video, and she's like, that is him. I'm going to go find him and tell him. And so that really kind of sets the stage for me with this, is like, you'll have to decide if why Aiden ran away is a good enough reason for you. But with him being young and the abusive situation he was in and who his father was and all that jazz, I at least understand why he went. And I understand why the heroine had to stay. And yeah, and it sets up the Sugarland Creek series, which is then about the Hollis siblings. But that first one is about Aiden, who works at the ranch and everything and has made his home there. And it was a really good one. That was my first book by Brooke Montgomery that I read, which is fun, a long time ago. Okay, now let's do one that is a paranormal one, since it is the day after Halloween that you're seeing this here. How about Till All the Seas Run Dry by Eliza MacArthur, which is book 2 in the Elements of Pining. And this one is so interesting. So this is another one that I'm just going to read the blurb. I'm sorry if you don't like the blurb reading, but it's been a long time since I read this one. This one was super angsty, super good, and definitely fits the angsty forced apart thing. But some, you know, the authors, sometimes they know what they're doing describing their books, and so it's better to just read their words here. So this one says, the rules for Selkies are simple. Wow, that is a tongue twister. Don't tell anyone you're a Selkie, or the mortals will try to trap you. Don't lose track of your sealskin, or the mortals will definitely trap you. Jory did everything right. Even when she fell in love with a shipwrecked sailor she rescued, she kept her secret. But tragedy struck, taking her love and landlocking her anyway. Resigned to her fate after centuries of searching for her lost sealskin, Jory made her way to the tiny coastal Washington town of World's End. When a new friend needs her help, which that is the stuff that happens in book 1 of the series, Jory's world is upended by the discovery that she wasn't the only one keeping secrets. Callum is tired. After 900 years as a vampire, immortality has begun to feel suffocating, or perhaps it's the fact that he spent centuries regretting the role he played in his one true love's demise. A loose end leads him to the Pacific Northwest, where he receives the surprise of a dozen lifetimes. What happens when the dead aren't really dead at all? Fate brought them together, cruel circumstances forced them apart, and now Jory has a choice to make. Should she return to the life she loved before she knew him, or take a chance on the man for whom she left it all behind? So, this book was the romance between a Selkie, which is of, it's not just Scottish lore, but it's the type of being that they can be a seal, or they can take off their skin and be a human, and a vampire, and they were in love. And something went very horribly wrong, and Callum ended up believing that she was dead, and she ended up, I believe, thinking he betrayed her. I believe that's why they're forced apart. But because she had lost access to her sealskin, she was forced to then live as a human for all this time. So this one was definitely angsty. This one definitely wanted to rip my guts out, but it also has such beautiful reconnection, and these two, that it's an absolute tragedy. But here's the thing too, like, they're immortals, so they have the time to work it out. And what is a few millennia when you have forever, right? So definitely a fated mate story as well, but just thought I would share that one with y'all. Okay, now let's do another one that's kind of paranormal here, but this one is a split apart in a completely different way. Okay, this one, I'm not gonna lie to you, absolutely obliterated me. Okay, it obliterated me. I won't pretend otherwise. That is Lore by Lily Mayne. Okay, so this is one of her monster series. This one is book 7, but it isn't really connected with like the other books as much. Like, I'll be honest with you, this one is much more in, it almost feels like a fantasy realm, like our hero's like an elf or something kind of vibes, whereas a lot of the other creatures are much more monstrous looking and things like that. And in this one, we have kind of a ruler of this world who is Lore. And there is this beautiful otherworldly creature with a mane of golden hair who falls through a void in the guest room. Okay. And so that is, we have Jugs is his name. And he's literally like this dude from like the 80s or whatever. And these like tiny boy shorts. And he falls through a portal in Lore's room. And so they fall in love with one another. These completely like alien to each other creatures. and they fall in love. And what's so cool in how this story is told is for a good portion of it, like, Jugs is the alien in this situation. Like, Jugs is the monster in this situation, even though he's not really monstrous because he's a pale, weak surfer boy kind of dude. But to Lore, he's the fascinating creature. And I love what Lily Mayne does with this because, you know, he's the secret that Lore is keeping. There's also a language barrier. But the way they fall in love with one another is so beautiful. And it's just so interesting. So yeah, this story though, the way these two are forced apart, it has to do with magic. It has to do with betrayal. And it absolutely like devastates me how these two get torn apart. But once they get each other back, like, oh my God. So Lily Mayne she was just trying to crush us. Like, that's all that happened. And by the way, though, I don't want to cry right now. But Lily Mayne, such a great author, such a great person. She's been going through an illness. If you're in her fan group, you may know. And I hope we will still have many, many more stories to come from Lily Mayne. I truly, truly hope that. So if you're the praying type or the good vibes type, please send them her way, because currently this is the last book she's put out in this series as of now, because we never did get more thus far in this series anyway. There's some other books she's put out with co-authorship and stuff like that. But anyway, you really could read this one standalone if you'd like to, because it actually starts before the monster apocalypse. And it goes way like past then and everything too in this magical world. So I thought Lore, it would be fun to bring that one up because there aren't a lot of opportunities to recommend Lore to anyone. But for Forced Apart, oh, I can't even talk about it. There's a devastating force apart in that one. So, okay. Another quick one where they were forced apart as kids. This was a more recent release here. This one was Undeniably Corrupt by Jay Shaman. And this one is these two, they were childhood sweethearts, of course, brother's best friend or best friend's sister, whichever you want to call it. And these two were completely head over heels for one another. And then something went devastatingly wrong. And I mean, I will tell you, it's the heroine's father's fault. And she was forced to stay away from Vander. And if she ever tried to see him again, there was a threat to her life and his. Now it's many years later and she is single. Her ex leaves her and her child, and the child is not the hero's. This is many years past and her child is a little girl. She's so cute. And Vander literally stumbles across this woman in a coffee shop near where he works. And she's going to nursing school and she's just trying to get by, and he can't help but insert himself into her life and be her Prince Charming. Like, there's no other way to stop it. He absolutely will. And as they kind of unravel what separated them, which part of it was her brother died, who was, right, the best friend of the hero and everything. And there was some other shady shit going on, and they just, were torn apart, and they were so young, and then they never reconnected. And on his side, he thinks it was kind of like just negligence on his part, without realizing there are some real tangible reasons why our heroine never looked him up either or reached out to him. So definitely are some drama to go with there. But I love these two. The audiobooks for this series are also spectacular, so I highly recommend. But this one was so cute. Definitely, this one is the kind of the least angsty of the ones I'm recommending today. But there definitely was that. Now, along the lines of another one that I find very angsty, and probably one of like the penultimate to me of ones where they are forced apart by parents, okay? And I have for you, again, The Magic by Lisa Kleypas, okay? This one is a class difference romance. This one is, she's young, in love with a stable boy type of thing. And her father realizes it and is like, you're not good enough for my daughter. And if you don't leave, I'm going to have you arrested. And so he's forced to go. And now he wouldn't have maybe gone except for the fact that he's threatened, like the heroine is threatened on his behalf. And Lady Aline, she very much views her father as this force who could do anything he wanted. And she knows that her loving man, John, he would be crushed under this weight of her father. And so she sacrifices her love, which is young and naive in ways. That doesn't mean it was wrong or that it was any less than pure-hearted, but it is a dangerous love to have, let's just say. And so she chooses to do what she thinks is best for him, even knowing she will be left an empty husk in the wake of it all. So this is one of my favorite historicals of all time ever written. And it is probably the angstiest of all of those. And it's one where Aline, I don't like her up until the last page, and then I love her with my whole heart. And I think that every time I've reread this book, I've read this book probably 5-6 times, as well as annotated it for people, countless others. And there are just feelings that I have that every time I'm like, how could you do this? This is your fault. Like, just speak the truth. But I feel for her at the same time. I can't help it. I can't help it, okay? I can't help it. Okay. Another contemporary one that actually just came out, and this is another one where I said it's a really unique forced apart situation. And the one I'm going to recommend here is actually Secret Haven by Catherine Cowles. So this actually wraps up the whole series, so you may want to start at the beginning of it, but it's unique in the fact that they're actually not physically forced apart. These two live, in fact, in the same house as one another for a few years, but they end up being adopted siblings. And so that forces a halt to any romance that could have happened between the two of them. So in this story, we have Fallon and we have Kai, and they are becoming something. They're teens, they're young. I believe she's 14, he's 16, somewhere around there. And he's in a very abusive home, and she's in a loving home that actually is like actively fostering and adopting kids. And her and him have become friends, and they meet up and they talk, and they've actually kissed for the first time, and they're falling in love. And then something happens where he needs to be removed from his home. And the best foster home in the area is hers. And so when he gets brought to stay there, he begs her, please, please don't tell them that we're what we are, because they'll find a different home for me. And this is the best place for me. And he also doesn't think he's good enough for her and that he would hurt her in some way. So he's also being a little self-sacrificing at the same time, because he's like, what could have really happened with us anyway? And this way he'll be in a safe home. And as a young man just begging for safety and hope, like, I completely get it. But then we skip ahead many years later, and he's now a successful businessman, and she is a social worker. And there comes a time where he discovers that he has 3 sisters who now they need a place to live. And him being a single guy who has had some trouble in his past, the best opportunity he has to provide a home for his sisters is to be married. And Fallon is the only one that he could think of doing that with. So I thought this was a unique take on a forced apart, because they're forced apart, but yet forced to live together. And I thought that's a unique take on it. And it definitely has some angst to it. But it's also Catherine Cowles, and it's just full of oodles of found family and happiness, and seeing these kids who, remind them of him so much. And the chance at love that they actually have now is just, it's really beautiful to see for sure. So love it, love to read it, love these guys so much, and such a good story. Okay, now the last one I want to do, I kind of put in just to be a bit cheeky because it's me. Okay, it's me. I'm a cheeky gal. And also wanted to share as one that you can actually get an annotated copy of this book from me if you'd like one. I mean, you can actually with, again, the magic as well. Because I meant to mention this at the top, but we'll do a near the end of the video plug too. I actually have my annotated book rec form open for the next 2 days, where you can pre-order an annotated book from me. And the book that I'm choosing to show that involves being forced apart is Dragonfly and Amber by Danny Gabaldon, which this is actually one I have fully flagged, fully annotated. I mean, you can of course get Outlander's usually the one people pick, but someday someone will want other books in the series too. So this is of course book 2 in the series. So yeah, you should start with Outlander before reading Dragonfly and Amber. But this is one that probably has one of the most devastating of all time forced aparts that I've ever read. Because for 20 years, Claire has been forced to live back in the future. She had to leave her beloved Highlander behind or risk the life of her and her unborn child. And in the beginning of this story, she's actually going back to Scotland now as a doctor, now as a woman with a 18-year-old, 19-year-old daughter, or no, 20 years old, because duh. And she's ready to share with her daughter how she came to be. And will her daughter believe the story or not? You'll have to find out. But I will tell you that the story that takes place between Dragonfly and Amber and Voyager of reuniting Jamie and Claire is one of my favorites ever. But definitely among my favorite forced aparts of all time because it's Outlander, my favorite of all time. So there you go, everybody. Those are 10 angsty forced apart romances. Let me know what some of your favorites are. I have made other videos with second chance romances. I don't think I've done, as I said, I don't think I've done this trope ever before, so check that out. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all my supporters who make this possible, and we'll see you next time.